Amelia, and I'm the administrative receptionist at Big Brothers Big Sisters of America. Before we turn it over to our speakers, I just wanted to remind you that you can use the Q&A feature to the right of your screen to ask any questions for the speakers, and you can also upvote someone else's questions that you'd like to hear answered. We will do our best to answer all questions before it's time for the session to close. You can also use the chat feature to engage with other attendees throughout the session. When it's time to respond to the polls, you will need to click on the poll icon to the right of your screen to view the poll and answer. Handouts for this session can be found on the bottom of this session page underneath the speaker information. This webinar is recorded and it will be available later through on demand in the Attendee Hub. Without further ado, I'll turn it over to Tim Kelke.
Hi, everybody. Good afternoon or good morning, wherever you may be. It's so great to be with you today and with our all-star panel, which I'll introduce in just a few minutes. Today's session is entitled From Surviving to Thriving, Lessons from the Pandemic. And we'll hear from three agencies about their experiences in overcoming the challenges of this past year with the COVID pandemic, social unrest, and all the other challenges day to day that they face in their jobs. And it's really a great opportunity to learn and kind of sit back and say, these are things that happen in my agency. I can relate to that. Oh, this is a little bit different. So I hope you'll enjoy our panel. And we're also planning on making this interactive. So if you haven't done so, I would encourage you to make sure that you have your browser up, because we will have some interactive activities on a Jamboard later in the session. So be prepared for that. In terms of our format for today's presentation, we'll start with a little bit of an overview of this project, which goes back to a grant-funded initiative. We'll introduce the panels to give them some time to talk about their agencies, which are actually geographically all over the country. We've got Southeast represented, we've got all the way out to the West. And we'll have some time for discussion with the panel, but we really do want to hear from you today. So I would encourage you to use the chat feature, and Amelia will be feeding some of those questions to me, but look forward to hearing from you and reflecting on your experiences over this past year as well. All right, so with that, we're going to launch our first poll question. So Amelia, please launch that. And our question is, which of the following challenges has your agency faced as a result of COVID-19? And please select all that apply. Could be 1, staff engagement, disrupted fundraisers, a lack of technology infrastructure, the need to reinvent how you do programming, or it could be other things entirely. So take a minute to share those in the chat, and we'll share the results with you. And while everybody's waiting, definitely encourage you to interact with the conference portal. I know that they'll be posting recordings of this workshop as well as earlier ones on there throughout the week. But great opportunity. I know there were 2 or 3 sessions just at this 2 o'clock hour that I would have loved to attend. So definitely encourage you to consider that, as well as opportunities for networking with your peers. All right, Amelia, I think you can go ahead and close the poll. All right, A, 23%, so staff engagement, definitely an issue. B, 30%. C, 10%. D, 31%. And E, 6%. Thanks everybody for sharing. All right. So we were very privileged a little bit over a year ago to get $1 million grant from the Stavros Niarchos Foundation, which is an international charity with offices in both Greece as well as in New York City. And this is a little bit of a different type of grant than we at the Foundation Grants team typically work with, in that we had the opportunity to actually put forward some agencies that were really in a position with the pandemic to need some additional support in terms of capacity building. A lot of times our funders want to do specific initiatives, but this grant really gave agencies an opportunity to be flexible in terms of the type of work that they do. And we were able to fund 15 small and mid-sized agencies through this grant that typically don't receive funding from our national funders. So great opportunity there. The capacity building focus really, it boiled down to three big themes. One was fundraising, two was technology, and third was programs. And I had the opportunity to sit in on, we did some quarterly peer sharing calls where each of the agencies had a chance to share on some of the work that they've been doing over this past year. And it really created this great environment where everybody could learn, kind of from each other and, take lessons from each other's experiences through that. And we really, just felt like there was such a wealth of learning through that this was a great opportunity to kind of bring it to a national audience here today. So that's kind of what brought us here. These are our 15 agencies, which they affectionately they adopted their own name, the SNF 15 group. And there was so much enthusiasm from Dennis's Aloha's in Hawaii, to Sue's great Southern charm. And we've got Lander out in Big Sky country, such a great group. If you're with one of these agencies, definitely encourage you to give a shout out in the chat. We'd love to hear from you. All right, that leads us to our panel discussion. And it's my privilege to introduce our three panelists today. One, we have Lander Backert. I apologize if I said your name wrong, Lander.
Sorry.
Chief Executive Officer of BBBS of Sky Country. We've got Sue Johnson, the Chief Executive Officer of BBBS of Greater Birmingham, as well as Brent Waugh, the CEO at BBBS of East Tennessee. And I'm going to give them a couple minutes each just to talk through, kind of a little bit about their agency and where things are right now.
Cool. Well, my name's Lander Backert. Thanks, Tim, so much for that introduction. I am thrilled to be here. Want to talk to you guys a little bit about what's happening in Big Sky Country. We merged with a smaller organization on January 1st, 2020. That seemed like an awesome idea, January 1st, 2020. It did make our situation a little more complicated, but otherwise fine. We now encompass 12,000 square miles of Montana territory, which is roughly the size of Delaware. We have 5 counties. Right now, we serve about 215 youth. Last year, we were at around 260. A couple of our site-based programs did go dormant because the school districts weren't allowing outside people in. Makes total sense. We're back and running next semester, so I'm excited about that. Right now, we have 8 people, including myself, running that enormous territory. Our budget's, a shy, it's a hair under 800K currently. We have 3 site-based programs up and running, one in Ennis, Montana, known for awesome fishing, mountains, Big Sky, Montana, skiing and mountains, Livingston, Montana, rodeos, artists, mountains, got the same general vibe here. In those site-based programs, I've been really proud of my staff. They've innovated some neat programs such as STEM Sisters, which is, when they do, folks from the community come in and work with them on STEM projects. We have Little Bigs, which we have middle schoolers in training to be high school bigs, and then they both mentor a young person. We're of course doing our workforce, and our workforce training happens in Livingston and in Big Sky. And then we have our killer community team, and they are just rounding kids up from the 4 corners of our vast area. It's been a pretty tricky year, but I can say without hesitation that my staff buckled down, and it's honestly been great. And I think that because we have such a strong staff connection, and that we have such a strong relationship within our organization, that some of our innovative projects really took off. And I'll talk to you guys a little bit more about youth mental health first aid, which is really where we put some of our focus this year. But yeah, happy to be here. Thanks so much, Tim.
All right, Sue, you're up next.
Hi, it's good to be with everybody. And I want to thank the Stavros Foundation for this grant and this opportunity last year. It came at a beautiful time. I know that all of you last year felt like you probably were thrown off a cliff. And like all of you, we had to kind of build our wings on the way down last year and reinvent ourselves. And every day was a different thing. and we had to make a lot of different decisions, think on our feet all the time. So congratulations to all of you on this video, on this chat, for surviving. You're all survivors, and congratulations to that. We're currently, at the end of last year, we served 942 matches. We usually serve about 1,400. So we lost a little bit. I have a staff of 16. Our budget ended the last year at $1.2 million. Our programs, we have a community-based program, we have a school-based program, we have a Beyond School Walls program, which is really suffering right now, and I'll talk a little bit about that in a little bit. Bigs with Badges program, and then we have a Sister to Sister program, which works with teenage high-risk girls, and we match them with very strong women in the community. So I'll be talking to you a little bit about fundraising in a moment, and then some things that we did with our programs, and we had a lot of fun last year too. So I'm looking forward to talking to you about that.
All right, and my name is Brent Wall, and I'm the CEO of Big Brothers Big Sisters of East Tennessee. I would like to think that I also have some Southern charm, so I hope Sue doesn't have it all. Our agency serves about, I'm speaking in generalities here because the last year was crazy town, as everyone on this call knows, but we serve about 800 to 850 youth a year. We do like to talk a lot about the waiting list kids that we serve as well, so that's another 100 to 150, and then we serve thousands more when you consider parents, siblings, families, et cetera. And we're really, this past year, as we'll talk about more, really taught us about that. Our budget depends on the year, but it's usually about 1.2 to 1.5 million. I think this year is coming in closer to about 1.5 million in terms of what we expect. We have a staff of about 24. I'll talk more about our programs and how we serve youth, but we have a lot of the ones that have already been mentioned: community-based, site-based, obviously. We have a Bigs in Blue program. We have a literacy-focused program. And some of these I'll talk more about through the course of the presentation, so I'll leave it a little shorter here.
All right, that leads us to our first question for the group. And this is related to staffing. How has your agency been able to support staff retention over this past year? Obviously, it's been a very disruptive time. And what adjustments has this required? We'll start with Brent.
I love that for me, this is the hardest question, so I love that I get to start with it. And I'm sure Sue and Lander will have much better ideas in this section. But, you know, one thing that we found pretty early on in the pandemic is that we really needed to open up in terms of our communication and our openness with the team, and we had to do that pretty immediately. So I'll talk a little bit about what we did in that way as a retention tool, as making sure that our team felt safe and secure. So one thing we did is we started CEO office hours. At first, those were weekly. We've now gone to bi-weekly. And that is a time when the team can get on and ask questions about anything. And this past year, they had lots of questions about what the future of the agency looks like, what the budget looks like, what decisions were going on. We've continued those. We still have them now. And usually about half of our staff participate in those office hours. We also instituted regular deep dives into the budget and into our development programs. Our Chief Development Officer, who I believe is on this call, actually does a really deep dive in December. And also we talk about the agency budget in a lot more depth because there was so much uncertainty. And when staff feel uncertain, it can affect retention. So we focused on that. We instituted a staff satisfaction survey to ask how staff were feeling and to make sure that we as a team, as a leadership team, and our board of directors were addressing staff concerns, questions, and things that they were worried about, especially during a year that was so uncertain. We're actually due to resend that survey out and compare year to year actually in the month of July. So we'll be doing that. We did a lot of evaluation of our roles. We looked at where we needed staff to be, and also where staff might be best suited. So a few quick examples of that. We launched a new position sort of toward the end of, well, I know the pandemic is still going on, but sort of toward the end of the fiscal year, which was really focused on match and family engagement, which was a huge part of what we did over the past year. And so that was able to take some pieces from teammates who were a little overstressed, who previously had been focused on throwing match events and hosting virtual events, and maybe felt like their attention was being pulled in too many directions. We're also starting a new position that's focused on quality assurance and training and some DEI initiatives. So again, another position that takes some of the stress off other teammates and really right sizes our team and puts our efforts where they best fit. A couple other things, and then I'll turn it over to my co-presenters. We obviously during the pandemic and over the past year plus, we instituted a flexible work. And once we start coming back, which we're still not back in the office right now, we will have a flexible work environment that continues based on role, based on seniority, and based on performance evaluations. And then the last thing that we really push for that we feel is a retention tool is staff raises across the board for the next fiscal year. And we just felt like staff had done so much, they had worked so hard, and we needed to find a way to do that. So those are some of the big things that we've done. I can't say that this piece is easy, especially now that things are hopefully going back to normal. I think we're experiencing some turnover. We've had some over the past few weeks, but we're doing what we can in terms of communication, openness, and making sure our teammates feel heard and feel like we're instituting what they recommend. So that's some quick things for us, and I'd love to hear from Sue and Lander as well.
I'll jump in. Wow, Brett, that's really fantastic what you did. And we too felt like communication was the key because we were all remote. You know, we couldn't see each other. And we did go into a planning mode and looking at roles, and because so many of our services began to change, and what were the roles of the staff. And so they took on a key part of that and looking at their roles, and we began to evolve into a different agency. And so and that really engaged the staff and made them feel secure, and they embraced that. Last year we didn't lose any staff. We started losing staff this year, and we have had some turnover. And I think it's just because people started feeling secure and stepping out and looking for advancement. That's all I think that is. So, and I encourage that, you know, that's healthy. So, you know, and we too are looking at staff raises and incentives for those that are staying on, but we are excited about these changes in staff roles. And there were some people that were in places that they didn't need to be. So, and they're excited about their new roles. So, you know, that was really good. Lander?
Awesome. Thanks, Sue. And Brent, appreciate you guys' insights there. We did many of the same things. I think the only difference, so I don't have to iterate the great work you guys have done. We focused really heavily on our staff's mental health. We instituted a mental health stipend. We had trainings on boundaries, on work-life boundaries now that our work was in our living room. We focused on self-care plans and who they can reach out to when things get tricky. I mean, as you guys know, and who everyone on this call, or as everyone on this call knows, our work didn't really slow down during the pandemic. Like, our families were in higher needs. We were seeing pretty intense, you know, participant and program needs, and my staff was tuckered. We were exhausted. So our focus was heavily on how you set boundaries at work. We've made Friday, you know, unofficially a free day. Like, if you need to do work, great. If you don't need to do work, I will see you on Monday. I'm so happy you're here. We gave raises across the board. We have made some room for advancement in our programs as well. I think I find, just because our organization is small, once someone gets a role, they're in that role until they either, you know, as Sue said, look for advancement elsewhere, or they just dig their heels and then get after it. But so we're trying to find pipelines for our really talented staff, which there are a lot. I think some of them are on this call, actually. so they can find a way to move up the chain and hopefully stay with us to avoid some of that turnover that, that's common in the nonprofit world.
Hey, Tim, one thing, I just want to say one quick thing. There's a handout in the materials that has contact. So if anybody wants to see position descriptions or details on what we did with staffing, fundraising, all the stuff we're going to talk about, check the handouts. I'm sure there's other materials there as well. So sorry to interrupt. I just want to make sure I mentioned that.
Oh, great point. All right, everybody. Now we're going to start our first activity, which if I could cue the Bob Marley music, we're going to do a little jamming. The Jamboard is a great new Google tool. I want to experiment with that a little bit today. And Amelia is going to pop in the chat a website for you to go to. And what we're asking for you to do is to go on that webpage and write in your agency. You would click this text box here in the left corner and then put your agency's, in terms of what is your agency's current staff work environment? Is it fully in person? Is it hybrid? Or is it fully remote? So take a minute to do that and we'll share the results. All right, looks like we got our first one. Oh, and actually that's the wrong page. This one, okay. We've heard from Columbia Northwest, hybrid. Ozaukee, Grafton, Wisconsin, East Tennessee, fully remote, Metro Detroit. Looks like we're seeing a lot of hybrid. We'll give just a few more seconds for people to fill in their responses. And one thing, don't close this page because we'll come back to it. We've got another question later in the presentation that will also touch on this. Thanks for participating, everybody. All right, and we're going to move into our next question related to fundraising. How has COVID-19 impacted your agency's fundraising efforts? And how has your agency been able to adapt to meet these challenges? And we'll start with Sue on this one.
Okay, well, last year when COVID hit, as everybody who does events, we had 3 events that brought in about $450,000 to our agency, which is a little under a third of our budget. So we couldn't do those events and we had to kick it into high gear. We did receive 2 PPP loans, each were $178,000. Those were a godsend, but that didn't help everything because we had a budget. Our budget was 1.4 million, so we knew that we were going to have to do a lot of work and a lot of different work that we've never done. And we were like I said before, building wings on the way off of this cliff that we had been pushed off of. One of the things that we began to hear very quickly were essential services. And we had to rapidly identify ourselves as an essential service provider. We all know that we provide essential services, but did those donors out there really identify us as an essential service provider? No, they didn't. And we had to do a lot of community educating, especially to United Way, to our larger donors like Alabama Power and the Community Foundation, people like that. But we couldn't just go to them and say, we're an essential provider, give us money. We had to, really give them some meat and some proof. And so our team got together, and what we did was, and we've done this during tornadoes that have hit Birmingham and different things, the way that we have provided services to our families. And we did this during the pandemic as well, is we started a online Google document, and we started identifying needs, and reaching out to our families and tracking and mapping what our families were needing. And then we started looking at the community services and like foods, people who were giving out foods and diapers and gift cards and utilities and transportation, and who had masks and who had computers, who was giving mental health services. And we tracked all this and we started connecting all that with our families. And not only that, we provided these documents to United Way. Well, United Way was eternally grateful because they didn't have that information. And they have a 211, information system. So this was valuable information for them. They turned around and gave us two $10,000 grants because all of a sudden, we were an essential service providing service to them. So that was helpful. And we were keeping our families connected to services that they didn't know how to find. And so, we went into a mode that we weren't normally not comfortable, but we just normally didn't do all the time. But that's part of what we do. We just tapped into it and went into it, leaned into it just a little bit more. And then also we used some of the Stavros money to hold online free concerts. And we would have musicians on Friday night during happy hour play music. And then we got our young advisory board and our board members to become influencers and spread the word on social media. And people could donate during these free concerts and these happy hours. Those were a lot of fun. And usually they were jazz and stuff like that. We also decided to have an online gala because we couldn't have our gala. We hired an auctioneer, a local TV news anchor who volunteered his time to be the MC. And we hired a local tech broadcasting company. We used the Stavros funding for this to video the event and stream it live. We developed several videos to tell our story. We had a silent auction that went live for a week prior to that event. And then we had a live auction the night of the event. The board actively solicited sponsors, just like you do for your galas. And then the Young Advisory Board again served as social media influencers. I learned a lot during the pandemic. I didn't know what a social media influencer was. Now, Brent, I know you know what that is, the young people, but
I think I am one.
yeah, I'm sure you are. I know you are. But the overall event lasted right at 1.5 hours, and we raised $151,000 that night. So that was exciting. And my younger staff, they had to convince me on this. I thought, no, we won't do, but we did, and it was very successful. Additional fundraising consisted of writing multiple grants to foundations, and we used what we did with United Way in explaining how we were an essential service, and we raised additional $150,000 through local foundations. So that's our fundraising efforts, and our team really came to the table with the fundraising efforts and thinking outside the box, and pulled us out of last year and really built some beautiful wings. Thank you.
What about Brent or Lander?
I can hop in here. So thanks, Sue, for sharing all that. COVID-19 obviously impacted our fundraising. We did garner PPE. We were a little bit luckier in that our region immediately identified us as essential services for a variety of reasons, most of them around mental health and mental health awareness. And because we offer mental health awareness trainings and can do them virtually, we were singled out pretty quickly in all of our communities as essential. I do need to give a huge shout out to Katie, who is my COO, who dug into grants like nothing I've ever seen into ever. Like the phenomenal hard work, and we shared and thought partnered. And so I thought that one of the true blessings of this is that we got to develop a relationship where her role is transitioning more into fundraising specific. And it, it created a lot of good opportunity for us. And then I think this might be the unpopular opinion here, but we also used COVID to prune events that we hated. Like we just chucked them like into the paper bin. We're like, well, we can't do it this year, so I guess we'll never do it again. I think that's great. We did some hard work on, what events are costing us, not just physically, penny by penny, but also staff time and outreach, and what's the cost, of these smaller events. And so COVID was actually a great time for us to respectfully put some of those to bed, which I appreciate. And it did allow us to focus on our bigger financial goals, endowment growth, and, perpetuity funds, larger long-term donors. And it gave us the opportunity to cultivate some relationships with newer donors based on our mental health initiatives. And then lastly, I believe while by just some stroke of genius, we had our biggest fundraiser February 29th, 2020. So we got it done before COVID hit. There was a lot of hand sanitizer at that event, which was a little, but then after that, we just shifted right into virtual events. We did a virtual wine and cheese pairing, which was awesome. We kept it pretty simple. We didn't, we honestly, we just kept it simple. We pruned, and I relied on my staff heavily to pull stuff in for us.
And then I can share just a few things to move us on to the next topic too. So just giving a nod to everything that was said, many of those things we attempted as well. With events, one thing we tried, we actually moved our signing day for graduating students. We moved it online. In the handout that I included with the materials, there's a link to that event. I know many other agencies have done similar, but it worked out wonderfully. We had a Game for Kids' Sake, 24-hour gaming event fundraiser in July that was a lot of fun. Just this past, I guess 2 weeks ago, a week ago now, we moved Bowl for Kids' Sake to Bags for Kids' Sake, and we did a cornhole tournament, and then a family fun day, which was a lot of fun. And it didn't raise as much as Bowl for Kids' Sake, so I can't claim that, but it did keep a lot of our corporate support and gave a good way to apply that funding. One thing that we tried during COVID, just to get more materials out, we actually moved our annual appeals to postcards, and we were able to send about 5 times as many annual appeals. And on that postcard, which there's a sample of it on my handout, there we included QR codes, text to give, and then we also included in the later appeals, because we've continued doing postcards, Venmo account as well, so that people could give digitally and very easily. And again, there's examples of those on my handout, and I'm happy to share. They raised considerably more than they had in the past. Now, they didn't raise more per person because we sent out so many more, but it was a big boon for us, both mid-year last year and also at the end of the year, and then we did another mid-year this year as well. One thing on the appeal side of things, we always do phone-a-thons with our appeals. And we upped our phone-a-thons and just made sure we called everyone, because we have such good success with phone-a-thons. I don't have as much information on that in my materials, but if anyone wants our scripts or anything like that, they can reach out to me separately for sure. And then one thing that I did want to talk about is our grants, which I know we talked about some already. We really focused on that whole service approach that Sue talked about. That we focused a lot on the fact that we're a hub for families. And we did a really comprehensive family needs assessment that we made sure that we shared throughout the year. We did surveys in the summer last year to our families by phone, surveys again in the fall, and we're doing those surveys again now. And I know I keep referencing the handout, but in the interest of keeping us moving, there is a screenshot of those results on my handout if anybody wants to see that. So it was, as everyone said, it was a tough year, but we learned some efficiencies and we did some things better. And many of those things we're taking forward as we hopefully move out of COVID and into a little bit of a brighter future.
for sharing such great ideas. As we're moving the slide to the next one, I was curious, how many of you have received any matching funding through this grant? See a couple hands raised.
I think we all did. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I know most of the 15 grantees did get some kind of matching funds.
We were actually, I'm pretty sure, Sue Lander, we all had very good foundations, and people love matching funding. So
Love it.
Yeah, this was a huge boon and we always do matching funding in our appeals too. So this was awesome from a large donor perspective, is really who we pitched on that, large donors and foundations.
That's great. All right, that leads us into our second Jamboard activity. And this time we're going to use the sticky note, which is the fourth item down. And our question is, please list your virtual fundraisers. So I'm going to give you a few minutes to go to that website, and I'll pull it up here in just a second to see the results. And one thing to point out, there are two screens. So you need to, you see it up here at the top, I've got the mouse, just navigate to screen 2 if you haven't done so already. All right, looks like we've got an online pumpkin decorating contest. It's so great. Gala auction, a virtual graduation event as a cultivator. Trivia and bingo night. So we've got a couple, they're still typing. Virtual wine and cheese pairing with guidance on how to make our charcuterie board. How fun. Trivia gala. Virtual trivia night. A 5K bowl for kids' sake, but not successful. A quiz for kids' sake. Interesting spin. Virtual trivia night as an alternative for people who didn't want to bowl. See my friends in Butler County, go Miami Red Hawks. Virtual 5K and virtual gala. A trivia and chef gala, and also virtual scavenger hunt, trivia night, auction. Give just a few more seconds for people to add their responses. And then Tampa Bay did bingo nights, holiday party at the drive-in. How fun. We'll keep the sharing. If we have time in the end, we'll come back to that.
Poker.
And one thing, I will post this on Workplace by Facebook afterwards too, so everybody will get a chance to see it. All right, that leads us to our next question. Technology. How has COVID-19 impacted your agency's use of technology? And how has your agency been able to adapt to meeting these challenges? And I'm sure that latter one especially is a big point. We'll start with Brent on that one.
Yeah, I'll try not to scoop Sue and Lander. I'll be quicker here so that they can get to some innovative ideas too. I mean, really, as everyone was looking for, we had to find models of efficiency and virtual platforms in every different way. So I'll go through a couple of those. We started using a text to give platform. It's called GiveBee, which was helpful for us. We also share that with our parents on our family postcards, which I'll talk about in the program section, where parents can text us if they need something and they'll get a response link. As I mentioned previously, my chief development officer who's on this call had been wanting us to utilize QR codes for a long time. And I fought that. And then every menu that I ordered from became that. So we started using QR codes in our fundraising and our events pretty much across the board, any kind of posters or flyers we do as well. We did innovate in terms of using Venmo for giving. So we've been doing that. I don't know as much about this platform, but when I sent this presentation to the team, they wanted me to make sure that I mentioned form assembly, which I know a lot of agencies are using and became a huge win for the program side of things. In terms of stewardship, I did want to mention two technology pieces that we implemented last year. it was similar to ThankView, which I know many agencies have heard of. It's the videos that are custom to donors. We did a warmest holiday wishes campaign that we sent out to our donors around the holidays with custom videos from Littles. There's a link to an example video in the handout that I sent, but we had a really good response anecdotally from that. A lot of our donors reached back out, and that was in place of normally every December we deliver something to our donors. It might be cookies, it might be ornaments, and so this video became a virtual manifestation of that. This is not exactly stewardship, but we had a photographer that came to us, and I know a lot of agencies utilized our photos and also did the same idea, but we did porch photos of our matches where they were holding up their either screens or whatever to show that, that engagement between mentor and mentee continued throughout the pandemic. And then one great idea, again, that's linked in the handout that we stole or borrowed from Marie in Arizona, her team, is we had Littles call and leave voicemails for some high-level donors, and then we cut together those custom voicemails into a thank you that we posted to YouTube. Again, not our idea. So Marie, if you're listening, thank you for giving us the idea. It turned out wonderful. We sent it to a large donor, a very large donor to our agency, and they actually sent it out to their entire foundation. And so we'll continue doing those as well. And again, normally those would be in-person things. We just couldn't do them during COVID. So those are a few quick hitters on the technology front, and I will turn it over to Sue and Lander.
Well, gosh, that's a hard one to follow up. We did create an e-mentoring program where we can do intake on our bigs and littles completely. And we do that through Forms Assembly. Love Forms Assembly. We also implemented the QR codes, and we even put the QR codes on our t-shirts, on the back of our t-shirts. So when somebody's walking down the street, they can zap our QR code and find out all about us or donate. Venmo is big also. One of the things that we did is to implement a weekly social media program to keep our kids connected. Is this program related, or is this technology, Tim?
Oh, it's across the board, Sue. You name it. Sorry, Tim, I didn't mean to jump.
It all overlaps.
Okay, well, so I'll just talk real quick about that. We did a social media programming with our kids to keep them connected, and there was a theme each week. So each week it would be cooking, or it would be dance week, or it would be college prep week. It would be learning how to sing week, or learning how to skateboard week. And because we knew kids were sitting at home, and we would find people in the community that had those talents, and we would tell the kids when to tune in. We did painting lessons, and all in all, last year we did 100 virtual activities with our kids. And we also did Storytime Wednesday, and we would ask local celebrities to read a book every Wednesday at 1 o'clock. And we would let the celebrity pick their book. And we had the mayor do it. We had professors from colleges read books. We had board members. We had donors. And we had one of our readers was a professor from UAB, the University of Alabama in Birmingham. He was from Wales. So he had this accent, and he would read Winnie the Pooh. Well, you think reading Winnie the Pooh to teenagers would just be a total turnoff. That was our biggest listeners, was when Dr. Ewan would read Winnie the Pooh. So we realized we had something here, and so every Wednesday at 1 o'clock, people knew to turn into this. And our donors, we had the head of United Way read a book. He read the book that he read to his children when they were little. And it connected people in a way to our children in our agency that they had never been connected before. They still talk about that when I run into people, about reading their book to our children. So it was really something. And it also promoted literacy, and it sent a message to the community how important reading was to Big Brothers Big Sisters. So that became a really important thing that we did through our through technology. And even our teenagers in our program tuned into this every single week. And then I think one of the last things, Tim, do you want to show the video now? This would be our state association created a video to promote. Now this is a video. This is different. This is a video our agency created.
And this is your virtual activities video.
Here.
It will get better. I believe they're doing the best they can, and it's our jobs to help.
Hey Demarian, just want to let you know that I miss you so much. I can't wait to see you. Hopefully all this will be over soon so we can paint each other's nails and we can meet up and go have fun.
Hi Eric, I miss you and I hope you're doing well, and I miss playing Jenga and Uno with you.
I know many of us are going without the meals we want or meals at all, and having money issues, job issues, but it will get better. Just keep pushing through all of this.
Just wanted to say hi. Great, this is Morgan. I miss playing basketball with you in the gym. I hope you're having a good time off. Remember to stay safe and wash those hands. Bye.
You're welcome.
Bye. Bye. I'll be calling you soon. Just want to let you know that I miss you.
I think that's a great time to transition to our discussion of programs. Pull up a couple questions here for us. How has COVID-19 impacted your agency's programmatic offerings, and how has your agency been able to adapt in meeting these challenges? We'll start with Lander for that one.
Right. So, I mean, much like Brent and Sue brought up, we did transition some of our match activities online. My favorite one is the Get Kids Outside Summer Scavenger Hunt, which is cool. Montana's all outdoorsy, so, you know, they have to check off boxes to see if they ski or hike or whatever. I don't know. It's adorable. It's on our website if you guys want it. Probably our biggest transition, and this started in early or late 2019, honestly. The area we serve, unfortunately, has some of the highest rates of youth suicide in America. Montana is really isolated. The mental health services are not present. I think for our 5 counties, there are less than 200 therapists even available for, you know, over 100,000 people. So it's not pretty. And we realized that we had to do some adjusting to better serve the needs of our organization. And so we dug around and found Youth Mental Health First Aid, which is a really neat program. I've actually worked with Tim and a whole bunch of other folks in the Big Brothers Big Sisters network on it. So thank you guys for sitting on Zoom with me for 6 to 8 hours. It was a treat. But Youth Mental Health First Aid teaches adults who work with young people how to identify, understand, and respond to signs and symptoms of mental distress, illness, or unwellness, how to connect young people with help, how to interact with young people in crisis. It is a class that was originally taught in real time and FaceTime. I clearly haven't been around people in person, but they adjusted to make it virtual. And I think that that's allowed us to reach a lot more people. We've trained over 80 folks this year so far. And I think it's been really powerful. It's given our community some real tools and some real education. And we have been offering it to our BIGs, community members, teachers. I've trained almost the entire teaching staff at our local high school. So we've been doing really good work there. And we have been seeing some measurable differences in that as well.
And I'll just share a couple quick things and kick it over to Sue. So I talked about our family needs assessment that was a big eye opener for us. And so one way that COVID affected our programmatic offerings is just a reminder of what a hub we serve as for families. I did want to share just a couple statistics, and since I don't have them memorized, I'm just going to look over to my screen. But 80% of families that we serve said we were the first agency to reach out. Almost 80%, 77% said that they had at least one critical need, which we connected them with a service. And then 88% of caregivers felt that their child's community-based mentor was a source of support during the pandemic. So we took that data and applied it to not only foundations, but also to how we offer our programs and in creating that new position. A couple other quick things before I let Sue take it away. We did do a lot of virtual events and activities. And one of the things that I really loved, we did STEM events. We partnered with a local children's museum and offered STEM events. There's a link to our YouTube channel on that handout for folks who want to check that out. We created a Wi-Fi hotspot so that families had a way to access the internet, which actually became a family resource center, a computer lab and family resource center for us. And it was all from learnings from the pandemic. Then the last thing I just want to mention briefly is that we did start sending quarterly postcards to families with events and with resources and so much more. And so I included a screenshot of that as well. We've had a great response, again, anecdotally, from parents who say maybe they don't check their email as much, or they do get those postcards and they are able to use them. So with that, Sue, anything you want to add?
Well, Brent, I would love to have a copy of the survey that you sent to your parents. That sounds fantastic.
Sure.
Sounds like you did a lot of really good outreach there. I don't really have a whole lot to add. One of the things that, we continue to struggle with, not just during the pandemic, is that, many of our children are being raised by grandparents. And the grandparents just do not have the technology skills to help their children with homework and those types of things. And they're so challenged. So, one of the things we are evolving into with our e-mentoring program is trying to develop our bigs, training our bigs in how to help the children with homework and with their skills. And in doing so, writing proposals and funding for that purpose. So that is just something that I'm seeing on the horizon right now, and something that I have been working with the Department of Education on. And so with that, I'd love to show a video that our state association has put together. And in the video, the purpose of this, that we created this video last year during the pandemic. We reached out to leaders in the state of Alabama. We wanted to create more of an awareness of Big Brothers Big Sisters, but we also wanted to align ourselves with people like the Department of Education, with people like, you'll see Condoleezza Rice in here, you'll see Miss Alabama in here, role models. You'll see a football coach, the Auburn football coach, War Eagle. You'll see, different leaders in here speaking, and we're just trying to elevate our visibility as a state association in Alabama, so that, people don't mistake us for the Boys and Girls Club, and that we are relevant and that we are important. So anyway, Tim, if you'd play that video for us.
Tim said there was an issue. Tim, you're muted. There was an issue with the upload. Wait, is this not the Boys and Girls Club presentation though?
Brad, that's not
conference.
I'm in the wrong room. Okay.
Oh.
It is a great video. We'll share that as a follow-up after the presentation. But definitely, it's
on that slide you had. It has kind of like
the video. It's not linked. It's just the picture of the video.
Oh, it's just a picture.
Yeah,
I can attest. It's an awesome video. I loved it, Sue. I remember.
We will share it though.
Thank you.
All right.
Let's
take a couple minutes for Q&A here. And if we do have a chance, we'll get some kind of closing remarks from everybody. There a lot of questions came in through the chat regarding Venmo in terms of security with Venmo. How do you set up a Venmo account? Do you have a Venmo account? What are your thoughts on Venmo?
Lander, you got?
I'm just overwhelmed by the amount of Venmo. Venmo is a great tool. Like, use it. Yeah, use it. Get one. It has to be linked to your bank account. You can only have one bank account and one person listed, as far as I understand. It is a little tricky, you know, but it's easy. It's a great way. We've found, or we've seen in fundraisers where it's a great way to get people to donate $1 to $50 really simply out in the community, which is a great way to collect pennies for good, essentially.
And our operations manager, she may not be watching, but she helped set that up. Her email is linked in the handout that I have. So I know a few of you guys have emailed me during this presentation. You're welcome to email Lori and find her email in the handout. She can tell you how we went through it. And I can't answer the security thing, but hopefully it's secure.
All right. And I think this next question is for you, Brent. Alicia Cook, she's interested in what curriculum or program you use with your high school BIGS program, and what grades are the littles?
We actually don't have a high school BIGS program. We're working on implementing one. We do have we have Mentor 2.0, and we have a lot of college and career readiness programming.
That might be confusion.
If I said high school BIGS, I completely misstated. But if you want to connect with me offline, since we're sort of near the end of time, I'm happy to share details on, obviously we use the iMentor curriculum, but we also are really expanding to college and career readiness. And actually last fall, we launched service to 18 to 23-year-olds, which we're still kind of working through because we couldn't do in-person events last year. But since we're nearing the end, if anybody wants to connect with me separately, I'm happy to do that.
And Brent, just to add on to that, we do have curriculum for our STEM Sisters and high school BIGS program. We were lucky enough that actually 3 of our staff members are former educators. So that made the curriculum development a little bit easier. So if y'all need that, just shoot me an email.
Good point. And I know there's also a national group affiliated with the NLC that's working on high school BIGS as well. That'd be a great resource as well. I'm eager to see some of the things that they're compiling with that. All right, we've got just a couple minutes left. I think we've covered all the questions. So let's give everybody just a minute each. Where do we go from here? What have been your agency's key takeaways from this period? And what will you keep doing? And what are you happy to leave behind from this past year?
Well, I think that, our takeaway is that, we have learned to depend on each other and to be more fluid and open to new possibilities, and to, that we can work outside the office some. And it certainly has given me, I'm more flexible with staff. I'm just more flexible. I thought we had to be here from 8:30 to 5 every day, but we don't. And we're just as productive. So there's been a lot of learning that's gone from the top down and the bottom up.
Yeah,
I think. Oh, go for it, Brent.
No, Lander, go for it. You were at it.
Oh. Okay. I think probably our key takeaways are, I'm much like Sue. I'm grateful for the collaborative nature that this spawned accidentally on purpose. It made us learn our online tools that were available to us that we were pushing against. Because a couple of our staff did work remotely before this, it just kind of solidified how we make the team cohesive as a remote, because we are all over. And I'm grateful for the relationships that developed within our staff. Like, I'm not going to say that every day is perfect, of course, but the relationships and the mission forward focus we have right now is incredible. And I don't think we would have gotten here without a major kick in the backside. And I'm glad to leave behind some events that were cute, but total time suck. So if you need a sign to dump your crappy fundraisers, it's me right here telling you to do that. Just do it.
All right, Brent, close us out.
You know, for me, tagging on to what Lander said, I'm so happy for the relationships. I would encourage you, no matter what level you're at, to find a group at other agencies that you can commiserate with. That's been huge for me with other CEOs. The statewide partnership that we have has just helped me survive the year. And I think that others at different levels could also connect with their statewide partners. I think open communication, focusing on the fact that we serve the whole family, that we're a hub. I've learned so much, and I'm also glad to, fingers crossed, leave it behind as well.
All right.
Yay.
Well, thanks so much, Lander, Sue, and Brent, for sharing today, and also for the Stavros Niarchos Foundation for their generous funding and support of this initiative. And thanks to all of you for attending today. We hope that you enjoyed this session, and it will be posted, as Amelia mentioned, on the portal later today, as well as on the Learning Exchange at a later date. Have a great rest of your conference and the rest of your day. Thanks.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.